Greetings, Paper Demons. Welcome to another live stream. We're on lesson number 2 of composition. Let me close my door really quick. Okay, so in our last lesson last week, we did an analysis of other artwork to kind of pick up on some compositional techniques. So today though we're gonna continue doing that a little bit, and we're gonna focus specifically on how to achieve depth in your composition, in your paintings, drawings, artwork, whatever. So specifically we're focused on achieving a sense of depth. Okay, so let's get into it, and as always, post in the chat if you have questions about this topic. I'm happy to cover it. Okay, so I have a few pieces of artwork that I'd like to analyze real quick with you to kind of show you some concepts. The concept I want you to get, if there's anything that you get out of this live stream: foreground, middle ground, background. That's the concept that we're going to focus on in today's live stream. So if there's anything that you get out of this, it's going to be foreground, middle ground, background. Okay, so let's take a look. Okay, so this is a painting by Frank Frazetta, and he's really good at a lot of his paintings. He uses really good foreground, background. So he has these two distinct layers to create depth in his painting. So let's take a look at what those two layers are. And he uses, in particular, he uses value to really indicate what these planes of the painting are. And if you're not, if value, if that's a term that's new to you, check out my past live stream series. I have a set of lessons specifically about value. So that's going to be a prerequisite for this compositional live stream lesson. But basically, just a quick summary: value is how light or dark the tone is. You're kind of just not thinking too much about the color, but just how light or dark a particular area is. Okay, so let's analyze this a little bit. So one thing that really draws my eye, like we talked about focal points before, and wherever there's the most contrast in tone is where the focal point is, and definitely that's in this area, because we have the light of the background and we have the darkness of the foreground. But let's see. But in terms of what the foreground and background are, we can kind of see that there's this rock structure here that this horse is standing on, and then the horse and the rider itself are the foreground of this painting. So think of it almost like this is all like one big plane in the painting. Is these two pieces together are the foreground, and then everything else is the background. So this has two distinct planes, and that's how this is creating depth. And by having the character kind of on the same plane as this like rocks, these rocks here, it kind of adds a sense of depth. So let's take a look at some other examples. Here's another one where very clearly you can see that the foreground is it's like even more drastic than the last one we looked at. The foreground is on its own plane. We've got this, let me sketch on here too. So this character that's here is on the same plane as this natural structure here. So this is all one plane, and that creates our foreground. And what's really interesting is that Frank Frazetta this is another piece by Frank Frazetta. He is sticking to very dark tones in the foreground, and that is part of what makes this pop so much and make this feel like it's got depth, is that all of the dark the foreground is basically restricted to the lower end of the value scale. Dragon Lady, good morning. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? Always a pleasure to have you in the stream. Welcome. Okay, so there's also a middle ground here. We've got a middle ground that's got this character in it, so it's roughly this area here is the middle ground. So all this area here is middle ground. And then the rest above is all background. So by having these three pieces, it creates a real sense of depth. And perhaps I can wonder if I can more easily, can I copy this? Oh, I can start drawing on it. And then it'll, let's see. Oh, here, perfect. Okay, so think of this. This is all the foreground here. So by using just some grays here, I can help you to see what these different planes are. And actually doing this when you're planning out your drawing can be very helpful. Okay, so now let's switch to like a mid-tone. Is this, there we go, perfect. This is the middle ground here, and then we'll use white for the background just so you can see roughly what's going on here. How do I make this bigger? Size, there we go. I hate to paint all over this Frank Frazetta painting because it's beautiful, but this is just to illustrate what foreground, middle ground, and background are, just to make it clearer for you. So we have this dark gray is indicating that foreground. I'm really drilling this into your head because this is like the most important thing that you can get from this live stream. Metallic, welcome to the live stream. Yes, thank you for reminding me that you're a Grand Ham. I'm sorry, I forgot that that's who you were. Dragon Lady says, "Woot, I'm doing pretty well. Pretty good. I need to get a move on Smogus. Somehow I've not drawn much since the 5th. Yeah, well, so I overheard from our mutual friend Kim that you were busting your butt over your vacation weekend trying to finish up that New Me versus Now Me artwork. So you're maybe feeling a little bit burnt out. It's totally cool. I'm actually feeling the same way because I was working really hard on that too during my vacation. So yeah, it's okay. Take a break. Smogus lasts all month. You got some time. And then, you know, maybe from this lesson we can learn some new things and have some energy. Okay, so hopefully this foreground, middle ground, background concept is clear in this. Leave without saving. Yes, I don't want to save over that. Okay. A few other examples. So there's another artist that is a more modern artist. I actually don't know what years Frank Frazetta was active. I think it's, I could throw out a number, but I'd probably be wrong. You can Google it. But Jeremy Fenske is a concept artist for gaming companies. His art is wonderful, and he also employs these same concepts of using foreground, middle ground, background. So take a look at this painting and see if you can, you know, determine what those planes are. So I'll give you a second just to think about it, and then we'll draw on top together. Oh man, we're both nerds. Yes, yes, Dragon Lady, we are nerds through and through. Okay, so my face is covering up part of this painting, so I'm just gonna hide my cam for real quick so that you can see this corner of this painting. And then I'll start to kind of draw on top here. So let's go with black here to indicate the foreground, because he's doing the same thing that Frank Frazetta did in the previous painting we looked at, where he's keeping the tonal values very dark for the foreground. And you don't have to do this. This is just a really common technique that really creates depth in the painting. So I noticed that all of this is part of the foreground. This pillar here is part of the foreground. We've got this horse here that's part of the foreground, and this other person. So this is all foreground here. And then we've got a pretty clear middle ground as well. There's another structure here. This structure here is a middle ground. Actually, that part of the background is not. Is there an undo here? I thought I had an undo feature. Can I erase? There we go. Erase! Okay. So this structure here is part of the middle ground. And then there's a very clear background. I mean, you could argue that the trees are part of the middle ground too, but they are on a separate plane from the middle ground, at least a little bit. There's a little bit of extra depth there. And it's not to say that middle ground and background and foreground are the only things that you can use. You can have multiple planes. It doesn't have to be limited to just 3 planes. You can certainly have more than that, for sure. And this part is also part of the middle ground here. I forgot here inside this. So now we can start to see pretty clearly foreground, middle ground, background. All right. I have more examples. We'll go through these real quick. So here we just have the character as the foreground. Then we have this landmass here and this character as the middle ground. And then you can also kind of see that these other structures are receding further and further into the background with each layer. So this is definitely more than a foreground, middle ground, background. There's multiple planes going on here. Let me turn my camera back on. So there's multiple planes going on here, like probably about 5 of them, but there's still a pretty clear sense of a foreground, a middle ground, background. This is again another Jeremy Finks painting. Here's another beautiful painting by him. And here he does not have like a really close to the camera foreground. It's kind of a little bit further away. I think the tree here on the left is probably, you know, the most in the foreground, as well as these characters here. Then the structure, actually let's say these trees too, foreground. They're about roughly on the same plane, right? And then for middle ground, we've got this structure here, this building. Right. And then we've got the background, which would be these other trees here, and the rest of the foliage all out in here. Okay, hopefully I've drilled this concept into your head. And now we can start to create something with dragons, because we are participating in the Smogist. We've got the Smogist challenge going on this month for the month of August, which is basically you draw a dragon. It's supposed to be a new dragon every day for the month of August, but I think that's too much for me. I don't know if it is for you, but maybe just get in 1 or 2 drawings. And as part of our challenge on PaperDemon, we're specifically asking people to focus on your composition skills. So all the concepts that we talked about today and in last week's lesson, we're putting that into practice with dragons. So let's do that. Okay, let's close all these windows. Close all the windows. Right, composition lesson 2. Alright, so let's do some drawing. Let's try to use this foreground, middle ground, background concept. Let's do some thumbnail sketches. And what is our prompt for today for Smogist? So today's the 14th. So the prompt is Valentine. Okay, so my thinking is, and perhaps this is because this is what we've, does SpaceX Dragon capsule count? Might be an easy day. I don't know what that is. What is that, Metallic? Shifting all my layers. Okay. It's the landing docking part of the SpaceX rocket. You asking if this counts for the prompt for today? Or does it, or is it because it's a dragon? Or it's a cone. Okay, I guess we have to look this up now. SpaceX Dragon capsule? Why is it called Dragon? Is that the name of it? Oh, look, there's a dragon on it. That's cool. That's neat looking. I mean, I guess you could use that for Smogist. I see. You can interpret these prompts any way you want to. Today's prompt is Valentine. Let's see if we can put something together for that. So all right. So I'm thinking, so Valentine would be. I'm thinking of love. I'm thinking of 2 characters who care about each other. 2 dragons meeting in the night to share their love for one another. So maybe they're clasping hands. And again, we're doing thumbnails here because it's a quick way to test out if the composition's working. Maybe they're on a tree branch. So maybe this is the middle ground. And then maybe we can add something for the background. Actually, I'm going to switch my brush. Let's work in tone for this, because kind of like we talked about in the analysis earlier, I was kind of showing you foreground, middle ground, background with tone. So let's do the same here. Let me use a mid-tone for the dragons here. Maybe there's also a few other tree branches here going outward, also in the middle ground. And then let's add a foreground element. Maybe there's some additional trees here, tree branches here, maybe some foliage here. Some leaves here. Just to additionally frame the characters a bit. So that is a compositional trick. I don't know if I talked about that last week, but there is a compositional trick called framing, which is where you put things along the edge, you add elements along the edge of your composition just to kind of frame the main characters. So right now the main characters are feeling a little bit squished in there, so I'm gonna reduce their size a little bit because they're feeling cramped, basically. So let's just give them a little bit of room to breathe. You know, a little bit of space. So that's one approach we could take. And Dragon Lady says, bow chicka wow wow. Brown chicken, brown cow. We can't draw that, Dragon Lady. This is Twitch. They don't allow that type of content on here. Dragon Lady is trying to get me banned. That's what's going on here. Okay, let's try another composition. So, Valentine. And of course the white that I've indicated here would be the background, but of course we can make it like more of a gray tone or whatever, a light gray if we wanted, but that takes too much time. You get the idea. Yeah, why don't we try for this composition? Actually, we're doing this here is landscape. Why don't we try a portrait? Portrait mode. And we'll fill it with a light gray to indicate the background. And then we'll draw in the foreground and middle ground. Okay, Valentine. So I suddenly had a thought. No, I don't want you banned. I actually did think of something based on what Dragon Lady just said. Bow chicka wow wow. Maybe we could capture the moment just before the bow chicka wow wow starts. Like maybe it's a couple of dragons laying by the fire. You know, one is leaning over the other, and the other's like on its belly. I'm not good at drawing dragons. Dragon Lady, you need to help me here. And you know, maybe there's a fireplace here. And maybe there's a window here. And the window would be our background. What would our foreground be? I think everything here is going to end up being a middle ground. I guess we could say that the characters themselves are the foreground. Or at least this character is in the foreground here. So our characters are the foreground. Can you even tell what's going on here? This is very, very rough. I could create full gray for the middle ground, but then you wouldn't see what's going on. So kind of have to here, indicate like this maybe. I need to look at my dragon reference. Let's see. We've got some here. There's a lot of good stuff here. If you're interested in this Pinterest board, it is in the challenge entry. I could paste that in for you. Oops. Wrong keyboard. Okay, this is the information on the challenge we're running. All right. Let's try one more concept, and then maybe we can go to refining one of these. All right. Let's try another landscape. Oh my God. Mia! Is that Mia? Or is it MLG? Oh my God, Mia! Mia is raiding with a party of 71. Holy crap. Welcome, Sleepy Squad, to the stream. Mia, how was your stream? How are you doing today? MLG, how are you doing? Mia, would you like to share what you're working on? You can share links. I don't have any restrictions or anything. I don't think I even need to grant you access because I am totally lame and don't have any Streamlabs or Stream Elements set up yet. So you were working on con prep but didn't get to finish anything. Oh no! Is it all MLG's fault? Did they distract you too much? Just to give context to those who are new here, because we've got a lot of new folks. Let's see. We are working on participating in Smogist, and I was teaching some lessons about composition. So I teach art lab. I'm so nervous right now. You guys, I'm so nervous. Mia, you made me so nervous. So I teach lessons on art, and this is the second lesson on composition, and we just did an analysis of some artwork. Oh, Cuco's here too. Hi, Cuco. Mia, please share some links. I can share your Instagram. I think I know it. Hold on. I can come to it from Twitch. It's gonna show me, isn't it? Because you're hosting me. This is Sleepy Mia's page. You guys should totally check her out. She's a really awesome artist. She draws a lot of cute girls. Sleepy 145. There we go. I'm so glad that you guys are here. I hope you all are doing well. Am I going to TwitchCon? I have not planned to go to TwitchCon yet. I am still a pretty small streamer. So I went last year and I really didn't have a very good experience. I think in part because I didn't know anyone. But I want to go, but I don't know. I don't know too many people. So, oh, Roni Straub, thank you so much for the hosting. I appreciate it. And if you're new here, I could share with you some of my art as well. Let's see. So I did used to, many moons ago, I did do doodles for Google. So I am like the most famous unfamous person that you'll, because my art's been seen by millions of people, but no one who knows who I am. Why wasn't it a good experience? That's a great question. So I felt that the people that I did interact with, like I saw some people being really rude, and you know, I didn't know anyone. It would have been different if I knew people, like I went and hung out with people I knew, but I didn't really know anyone. And also the staff, like the line, the registration line, like I pre-registered and the line was so long I couldn't stand in it. If I would have stood in it, I would have had serious back pain because it was an 8-hour long line. So I ended up getting there, seeing the line, and turning around and going back home and just watching the live stream of it. So it was a pretty poor experience. I hope they fix registration this year because last year it was really bad. If I make it to affiliate before then, it might be a better experience because I know they have separate lines for affiliate. Yeah, it was pretty bad. I know for you, since you're partnered, you know, you're gonna have a super short line, so you'll get in like. But the experience for people who are like new streamers or who are just like viewers, it wasn't a great experience. So I hope they improve it. I hope they improve it this year. Maybe they'll learn their lesson. Okay, so we were drawing some really bad thumbnails of dragons. Trying to do 3 planes. Where I was teaching today about foreground, middle ground, and background to use that to get some depth in your art. We looked at some examples of Frank Frazetta's art and as well as Jeremy Fenske. They're both really awesome artists, and they have a really good sense of depth in their art. So, okay, so if you guys want to help me out here, we are working on Smaugust. If you have concepts, today prompt is. So since it's the 14th, the prompt is Valentine. So we're drawing over here on the upper left. We've got 2 dragons that are meeting in the forest and declaring their love for one another. And we've got a pretty clear foreground, middle ground, background going here. The dragons are in the middle ground. There's some branches, some trees, whatever. And then we've got some foliage and stuff in the foreground, and then there would presumably be an additional layer of background, trees, and that kind of thing going on here. So we could take this one to final. I'd like to do one more concept sketch with Valentine. So if you guys have ideas, how might 2 dragons, or maybe 3, maybe it's a threesome of dragons. Who knows? We don't. Sorry, folks. I dropped my microphone. Okay, so where was I? It could be a threesome of dragons. Who knows? How might we express Valentine in a concept? Basic Kink says, I go make mac and cheese and come back, and here I am. Welcome back. Emily says, I love Google Doodles. I'm glad that you do. A lot of people like them. They bring joy to people's faces. So those dragons are me and you, MLG and Emily. Are you 2 actually in a relationship? I mean, I see the chats go back and forth, but I don't know if it's just a meme at this point. I want some mac and cheese, man. Why you gotta make me hungry, Basic Kinks? Okay, let's, maybe we'll do a threesome of dragons. Of course, it's just a thumbnail, so we're not gonna get much detail in here. But let's give it a try. We could have one dragon in the foreground. Hold on. History. Okay, one dragon in the foreground. Super excited and in love. I'm in love. I love all of you guys. It's a threesome of dragons. And a middle ground dragon. Because there's three. We've got foreground, middle ground, background. Why not do 3 dragons, 1 in each? Maybe they're flying through the air. And they're just like so happy. Maybe this one's upside down, flying upside down. Or something. And then there's like one way in the background. And there's just like this, like, what do they call it? A throuple? They're a throuple. Instead of a couple, they're a throuple. It's just a meme for now. Okay, I wasn't sure. You see, I have a problem understanding if someone is joking or being sarcastic or if they're being serious. So there's been a lot of misunderstandings in my life because of that. Oh, MLG, you didn't think it was just a meme? Is that why you're sweating? You can have a lot of fun with me because I won't know if you're being serious or not. I'm a very literal person. I'm going to revise this because this dragon that's in the foreground is roughly the same size, like proportionally, as the middle ground dragon, which I think it would add a lot more intensity if that dragon was way bigger and maybe overlapped a little bit. Maybe it's coming from the top or something. This is its big head here. Its legs. Dragons are hard to draw. Okay, so that gives it a little bit more composition. My thinking here is that the eyes would be here. Would have something like that going on. Okay, so you kind of get the concept here. We've got three layers. Why don't we try finalizing this one? Because I think this one has a pretty nice composition to it. I think this one's the most interesting one. So let's take this and try to turn this into a more refined sketch. All right. I'm going to save these thumbnails really quick. Not in Dragon Ball Quest, that's not where we're at. Let's see. Day 2. Some sketches. Okay. And let's start a new file. What we're going to do is, and this is really common for my illustration process, I start with really ugly, rough thumbnails like this, and I do these thumbnails and I'm kind of explaining, repeating myself a bit here, but since we've got some new viewers here, I just want to kind of explain my process a bit. So I typically, when I'm working on an illustration, I do these really ugly, simple thumbnails as a really quick way to get started with the composition. It's a way for me to really only spend like 2 minutes per sketch to figure out, does this thing actually work? Sometimes I'll spend as little as 30 seconds on something. This is actually way more refined than typically what I do for a thumbnail. A lot of my thumbnails are really rough. And then when I find one that I like, okay, this one I think is a pretty good idea, I like this, I want to refine this, then I can take this, if I'm working digitally, I can go ahead and blow it up and then put the opacity low on it, and then start to do a refined sketch on top of it. So I'm going to pull up some reference on my other monitor here of some dragons, because to be perfectly honest, dragons, I haven't drawn too many dragons in a while, so I definitely need the reference. Reference is helpful so that we can draw more accurately. So I've got our Pinterest board up. Looking for a good structural, there we go. Okay. I'm going to switch to my pencil here. I'm just going to start to refine this a bit. Maybe their noses are touching, that'd be kind of cute. Also to think about the gesture. Maybe, you know what would be super cute? Is if one of their tails was curled around the arm of the other one. That would be... I think that would be hard to indicate though. We can have it curled around the branch or something. That'd be super cute. I'm trying to make the wings a bit uneven here, so I've got one wing that's down, one wing that's up, just to make it a little bit more of an interesting shape. I think the dragon probably wouldn't be able to curl it that much, so let's the tail. We'd of course have our tree branch here. Maybe we just bring the tail down here, like this. There'd be some leaves of some kind here on this tree branch. I'm kind of imagining that they're really, really high up, like kind of close to the canopy top of a forest. And kind of like I talked about when I did this initial sketch, I'm using a compositional technique called framing to frame the characters. So these trees and branches here that I'm drawing right now in the upper right are part of the foreground, and they're going to be a darker tone, just like it is in the thumbnail here. And because those shapes are there, they almost like it's almost like putting a picture frame around a piece of art, except it's in the art itself. It's framing the characters in a way. And usually when you use this technique, you don't always have a frame on all four sides of the painting. It's usually, it might just be on two sides, but you can have it all the way around. It depends on the feeling that you're going for. Okay, back to our sketch here. So I'm also adding some tree branches and leaves here to continue the framing, and I'm using diagonals here that lead into the main part of the painting. So our focal point is where these two dragons are meeting, their noses touching, which is super cute. And so I'm using the branches here to guide the eye toward that focal point and into the painting. It basically kind of inviting you in. I'm also thinking that compositionally there's a little bit of I'm not quite liking the position of where the dragons are specifically, so I might experiment just for a minute using the rule of thirds. So if you're unfamiliar with the rule of thirds, actually if you use Photoshop and you go to crop something, I think it'll show it. Maybe not. I wonder if there's an option in here. View. Is there guides for rule of thirds? I don't think there is. Okay, we'll wing it. That's okay. We can wing it. So rule of thirds is if you were to divide your painting into threes, just gonna eyeball this. I think it's about there. So if you were to use a grid like this, you can use that to figure out where to place your focal points. If you place your focal points near these corners, you're more likely to have a successful composition. So that's what the basic rule of thirds technique is. It's just divide your canvas into threes, find where those intersections are, and then place your focal points kind of close to there. So let's see if we can place this branch with the dragons a little bit closer to maybe the upper left focal point. And it doesn't have to be like right on that that intersection. It can be just kind of close to it. It doesn't have to be like right on the corner. So what I mean is, if we were to be really strict with this rule, then we would put the focal point there, but our actual focal point is here. Okay, so that works out a little nicer, I think. Let's continue on. I think this works a little better too because these characters have a little bit more room to breathe. I'm gonna just move them a little bit more this way so that they have some space. And then we can also put some additional trees and branches and such here. You know, like I can have the trunk of a tree that's kind of angled here, and then a branch coming from that tree here. And I believe our thumbnail also has, yeah, so in our middle ground we've got another branch down below, which is great. So let's sketch that in. offshoots into other branches. And I'm thinking maybe I can angle this branch a little bit more. And the reason I'm thinking to do that is this would then draw our eye in. So let me use red here so you can kind of get what I mean. So there's a lot of rhythm to consider. You want to consider rhythm in your composition. And what I mean by rhythm is like, where are the lines and things pointing to? So for example, by having this branch like curved like this, we're kind of taking the eye in from the corner here, inviting the user in. Then they'd probably go up this way, you know, maybe wrap around this way and find their way to the focal point. The eye will start to also, you know, go up this way, down this way, down, and then back into this tree branch again. When you have a composition that kind of guides the eye around and around in the painting, that's usually a good sign. It's just kind of a way to guide the eye around, like the eye can find lots of little places to look. Okay. And as always, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Okay. Alright, that's a pretty good first pass at a sketch. I will do another layer of refinement. This is typically my process. I go layer by layer, adding more and more refinement. I also do like to use this blue pencil because it does allow me to easily draw on top of it and still be able to see my sketch too. But that's also a very useful technique if you're working traditionally as well. Okay, let's really start to refine these dragons a little bit more. I'm thinking that this one's head is a bit tilted. Dragons are very hard to draw. But the nice thing is, since they're not real, we can make shit up. Dragon Lady, speaking of drawing things you aren't used to, raccoons? Dude, not remotely anything I've practiced before, but I promised someone I'd draw them one. Yeah, I mean, anytime that you're going to be drawing something that you haven't drawn before, doing some studies can be really helpful. I probably should have spent some time before doing this live stream to practice some drawings of dragons first. That would have been the smart thing to do, because then I'd be much more prepared. But I am a lazy bum, and I'm not lazy, I just had other things to do. But hey, this is my time to practice, so it's totally cool. Yeah, I mean, that my recommendation there is to find reference, practice drawing, you know, doing a few studies of raccoons, just trying to copy the photos that you find, and, you know, also look at the way other people have drawn raccoons. I always like to do that too, because it's hard to simplify, and other people have put in the work to simplify it for you, so you might as well also kind of see how other people do it. Mac and cheese with cut up hot dogs? Metallic, oh my god. Oh. Ronnie Strupp, thank you for the host. Lots of things going on today. Okay, let's continue on with this drawing. I'm a bit of a scatterbrain today. I don't even remember what I was just talking about. I know we were talking about raccoons and then mac and cheese. Maybe it was raccoons eating mac and cheese? Oh yeah, mac and cheese with cut up hot dogs. When I was a kid, I was in daycare a lot, and that was one of the things that they used to make. And they used to bake it, you know, like put it in a big like casserole dish and put it in the oven. Oh, and the edges of the hot dogs would get all crispy. Oh my god, so good. But I almost never get to eat mac and cheese because my husband hates it. He can't stand it. So, I mean, who doesn't like mac and cheese? Why'd I have to marry the one person on this planet who doesn't like mac and cheese? Alright, where were we going with this? Okay, we were refining out this dragon. I think I'm just gonna have the tail like this. I think the other thing I have to think about is what type of dragon this is. Does it have arms, or are the arms the wings? Because I see different types of dragons that are like that, where there's no front arm, their front arm is just the wing. I think that's how the dragons are on Game of Thrones also. So I've got one wing up, one wing down. That's kind of what I've got here. Which I don't know if dragons would actually do that, but it certainly makes for a nice composition. So I'm thinking about where the center line is of the head. So I've got one kind of tilted toward us and one tilted away from us. So actually there would be another horn back here. Most of the dragons that I've drawn have been cartoony, dumb-looking dragons. So this is pretty refreshing for me. Do you have a Nintendo 64? Yes, I do. Do you? By the way, thank you for the host. I'm doing well. How are you, Ronnie Straub? Dragon Lady says, thanks for the recommendation. Sounds like I've been on the right track. Yeah. Looked up a ton of references. Yeah, you're good at that. You know how to do that. Quick, simple sketches to get a feel for it. Yeah. It's hard. Sometimes you just got to practice a little bit and get there. But yeah, I wonder if there might be video tutorials too on how to draw specific animals. You'll probably end up drawing the darn things longer than you draw the final pic. So that's really interesting that you mentioned that, Dragon Lady. Can I call you Susie? Yes, you can call me Susie. That is my name. You can call me Bogus Red. I do have a Nintendo 64. I did play Ocarina of Time back in the day. I also, let's see, what else? GoldenEye, Mario Kart, all good classics. Why do you ask if I have an N64? Nintendo 64! Oh my god! Nintendo 64! I love that video. Have you seen that? Ronnie, have you seen the Nintendo 64 Christmas video? I'm gonna find it for you. There's a song. Someone made it. It is the best thing ever. We're gonna take... This is one of my top favorite YouTube videos of all time, and you all are gonna now have to watch it because Ronnie Straub brought it up. It's all your fault. Hold on, let me turn on my desktop audio here and switch. Local desktop. There we go. Okay, guys, this video is the greatest thing ever. These kids are really excited, guys. Drum solo. Okay, that's enough of that. That's enough of that. Put a link in the chat so you can check it out if you want to see the rest. I love this video. Whenever having a bad day, folks, watch this video. It will be guaranteed to brighten your day. Alright, back to where we were. Okay, back to drawing dragons. Now that we've had that. Oh my god, my poor ears. Hey Schwarzer, welcome to the stream. Sorry if I didn't notice you were here before. We had a lot of activity in the chat and I think I missed a few things. Oh my goodness. This is why I'm not touching children with a 10-foot pole. What? Kids are adorable. I don't know what you're talking about. All my friends, almost all of my friends don't want kids. It's just me. I'm the only one that wants kids. They all have fur babies though. Ah, you were just lurking. I'm sorry for hurting your ears. Okay, back to this. I'm gonna pull up my reference again. Nintendo! Oh my god, Nintendo! 64. Oh man, it's stuck in my head. Okay, so I've drawn this, like, basically the center line, which is to indicate the spine of the dragon. And this can help me to indicate where to place things, especially since dragons have that line of spikes down the back. This is a common little trick you can use. And then we're having the tail kind of come up, curl up a little bit here from under the tree. You know, another thing that might be nice compositionally here is instead of having this curved branch here, we could put some moss coming down from the tree. Maybe some hanging vines. That looks cool. If you look at a lot of Frank Frazetta paintings, he does this too. He likes to draw swamps or something. I don't know, like really swampy places. So this is another way. I felt like that branch was a little bit too heavy and wasn't really convincing. So that's one of the reasons why I removed it. So these other little things here are still serving the same purpose of drawing the eye in and like kind of creating a loop of where the eye can go. I also kind of have to make a decision here about what my size of my painting actually is. I've got this as 8 by 10, but I might actually want to go more landscape with this, like, or more like widescreen, I mean. And here we go. When you are cropping in Photoshop, it shows that rule of thirds here. You see the thirds? And it's because it's such a common compositional trick that they added it to the cropping tool because there's just like so many people who use this particular compositional technique. Okay, back to our sketch. Back to our sketch. All right. So this one, I'm going to have both of the wings. Be both of the wings up. I hate that the wing is covering up so much of the body because I don't want to do that. There's lots of good information in there. But it is the way of things. So I'm thinking that this dragon is basically sitting on its down on its hind legs. So that's why this is compressed here. This one, meanwhile, on the right is standing upward more, a little bit more. So cute. Let's save this before something bad happens. I think my machine might be overheating just a bit, so I'm going to open this up. Oops. I was trying to decide if they were screeching happily or if they were throwing a tantrum. Oh, they were very happy. They got a Nintendo 64 on Christmas morning. That video was, so the original video was on like America's Funniest Home Videos, and then someone took it and turned it into like a music video type thing and cut it together. But that video is really old. Those kids have been adults for probably a long while. But yeah, they're definitely happy. Oh, so there would not be any hanging moss where the tail would be, because the tail would then have the moss on it. So we have to kind of be careful there. Okay, got some more refinement there. I think I want to look at some of my reference for trees. Well, from the context, sure, they were happy, but if I was just listening to them screaming, I could not tell. Yes. If you're just listening to this stream, not actually looking, yes. Okay. Let's see. Where's my Pinterest here? Guys, we could add a waterfall in the background. Oh, that would be dope. Okay. I am a bit getting away from what I'm doing here, but let me just really quick see if this idea works. Perhaps having it go right behind the dragons might be a little much. Maybe it should be there's kind of too much going on in one spot, but maybe we can push it over here. Waterfalls are always fun. Back to our rule of thirds, perhaps it makes sense to push this a little more to the right. I think that works well. We could still have some branches that are here, some leaves and stuffs. And you know, we've still got this tree here, this tree trunk here. Maybe the tree kind of reappears here. Maybe we push this waterfall down just a little more. So this waterfall that's here is in the background. It's part of the background. So we, again, if we are talking about that foreground, middle ground, background. Oh, Metallic, you're going to drop out. Thanks for joining the stream. I will see you next time. I hope you are well. See you on the Minecraft server. We're probably going to play tonight. Yeah. Where were we? Oh. Let's see. I'm just kind of thinking about some shapes that would be going on here for some trees, leaves and stuff. Maybe there's another branch that comes down here. And hopefully you can see here by like the really dark marks that I'm making, like what parts of this sketch are the foreground and the middle ground. I could probably from this point, if I wanted, I could start to do a refine or do like a tonal study real quick, just to kind of figure out what my tonal structure of my painting is. I do typically like to do that. Probably refine this sketch just a little bit more, figuring out what the different parts are. I think I want some more leaves here. My eye is thinking that perhaps I might need something in the lower left, but I feel like there's so much framing already going on. It might be a bit much. So maybe something in the background there would actually make sense. So Just kind of thinking about some other trees that are maybe in the background here. Yeah, let's go ahead and do a pass at tonal structure, because I think that we really need that. We'll try to keep it quick. Alright, so I'm basically going to work in black and white to figure out what the tonal structure of the painting is. Just like I've done in previous live streams. Just kind of thinking about where the darks and the lights are. Go a little bit lighter here. You know, maybe these dragons are mostly silhouetted. That would also make this quicker to paint because I wouldn't have to put in much detail into them. I'm going to lurk, Susie. Well, thank you, Ronnie, for the lurk. I appreciate it. Ronnie, are you... I do want to ask you, though, at some point. I should have asked you earlier if you're an artist or not. But you're gonna lurk now and not talk, so that's fine. Do your thing. Do your thing. Okay. So this branch is more in the foreground with some leaves and stuff on it. There's also some leaves here. And these help to draw the eye in to that. To that focal point. I have to be careful because if I'm thinking that this is like high up in the canopies, then this foliage here would probably just have to be tree branches. And those have to look a certain way. Or I suppose I could think about it as another cliff face, because we do have a cliff in the background, so this probably can't be the top of the canopy. So we'll make a little change there. Okay, so I'm going with something lighter for this. Actually, why don't I just do this part on a separate layer? It'll make my life easier. I don't have to paint around stuff. And then there's more like tree branches coming down here with leaves and stuff, guiding the eye into the focal point. Okay, so I'm running out of values to work with for this background, and that's because we've made this middle ground, we've made the middle ground a little too light. So I'm going to darken it so that I have more values to work with in our background. thankfully this is really easy in Photoshop. Oh, I missed part of the wing. That's okay. We'll repaint it here. No problemo. Okay, so now because I made that change, I have I can work with some darker values here for the background. For this cliff and the waterfall. So just to be a little bit clearer about what I mean, so currently we have the middle ground as this mid-gray tone here. Let me draw on top of this. I think it'll be a little bit easier. Can I sketch on top of, there we go. Can I zoom in? No. It won't let me zoom. It doesn't like me. All right, well, I'll just draw on top of this. Okay, so this is where we're at right now. And for that middle ground area. And because, you know, what I originally had was like up here. And the reason I moved it is because for the background, I'm gonna need some tones to indicate some different things that are going on there. And if my mid-tone or my middle ground is here, then I only have these values to work with. And it's a very limited range. So by making that middle ground darker, I now have these full tones to work with for the background. Of course, obviously, if I really wanted to, I could dip down into here for the background, but I think that that would start to break down our sense of depth in the painting. I think it'll work stronger as a composition if my backgrounds are sticking to these lighter tones here. All right, close this out. So I'm just kind of thinking about, there might be a series of trees in the background here, pretty tall. And they're looking a little bit too straight up and down, and that's okay if that's what you want to go for in the composition, if you want to lead the eye in a certain place, but sometimes it can look a little stale. So I might angle some of these trees, these background trees, a little bit, just to give it a little bit more interest. this in here. You'll also notice what I have here. I've got most of the white now of the painting is around the focal point, and that's very intentional. I've got some grays along the outer edge here, but the actual white is here because this is my focal point. This is where I want the eye to be guided to. I'm going to take an airbrush, just kind of indicate, just make the outer edges a little bit darker. That might have been a little too much. Okay. Oh, I did it. I did it on the wrong layer. Wrong layer. Guys, it's supposed to stop me from doing that. Okay. This is also another cheesy compositional trick you can use to basically darken the outer edges. Okay, so if we look at this without that blue sketch in there, we can start to see I think that waterfall needs a little more work, so let me fix it real quick. I guess that the waterfall would be a very light gray. And then I might put more darker tones around it to make it be visible. That would work. There we go. Now it's starting to look a little bit more like a waterfall. Oops. There we go. Susie, when you get the chance, would you be willing to elaborate on what you were about to talk about the studying for a picture taking longer? Oh, that's right. I was going to tell. I got distracted by mac and cheese. Yes, thank you for reminding me. So 50% of your time, roughly, is when taking on an illustration, 50% of your time tends to go to prep work. So research, studies, that kind of thing. That is usually like somewhere around there. It's not always that. Like, it depends if it's something very familiar to you, you've done drawings like this before, you may not spend that much time. But typically when I take on an illustration, sometimes I'd spend 50% or more on the research and preparation phase. So looking for reference, doing quick studies, doing thumbnails, doing maybe even research as in reading material, like especially when I worked for Google, like when I was doing those doodles, I was creating doodles for cultural events that I am personally unfamiliar with, and I want to make sure that I'm being as accurate and appropriate to the cultural event or to the person. You know, if it's about a person, I want to make sure that it's reflective of that person or event or whatever. So a lot of time had to be spent doing preparation work. And I think this is going to be true for anyone who is doing illustrations on a commission basis. And when I say commission basis, it really depends on, that could be very broad, but I mean someone who is operating as a professional illustrator and taking on like an illustration rather than like, say, you know, sometimes you get commissioned, you know, $10-20 to draw a character or something. That's different. But if you're asked to do like a full-on illustration with foreground, middle ground, background, for example, that is more for a professional use and isn't simply just a character, it's more involved. So you need to research, for example, like what is the location that this is present in, what type of foliage is there, like what plants are there in that location. You may have to read about, okay, this is going to be depicted in this particular region, these are the types of trees that are native to this region, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of research that can go into creating an illustration. That doesn't mean, I'm not trying to say like you shouldn't do commissions until you understand this. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. I'm saying like my experience in doing professional illustration, this is the process that you follow. And it's what I learned when I studied at university, and it's what I put into practice when I worked at Google as an illustrator. Does that make sense, Dragon Lady? Let me know if any of that was unclear. I'm happy to elaborate more. I'm gonna hydrate for the next minute because I'm really thirsty. It looks so cute. Thank you. It is cute. It is really cute. I'm glad that we were able to get this far with this because last week when we did the lesson, it was mostly focused on analysis, and we didn't really have much time to get into a drawing, so I'm glad that we were able to get this far. I'd like to end the stream. I usually try to keep these streams to an hour, but we're already 40 minutes past that. So, but I want to keep going with this, but not for too much longer because I do have other things I need to get to today. I would like to finish this though. Let me take a look at the schedule. I want to take a look at what our next lesson is. Okay, lesson 3 is going to be on sizing and silhouettes. So that'll be good. I think we've touched on some of that stuff already. So we might be able to go through some of that stuff quickly. But yeah, let me spend another like maybe 15 minutes max on this for today, and then we're going to end the stream. So if anyone's got questions, now is the time to ask them. Okay, basically you're saying that it sounds about right having to spend so much time studying for a pick. Yes, that is correct. And I think also one other thing I just thought of, the less experience you have at taking on like a commission or doing things you haven't drawn before, the more time it's just going to take. Over time, you'll start to end up having to draw the same things. I can't tell you how many flags I drew while working at Google. There are so many flag doodles, it's ridiculous. You will not even believe. And so I got really good at drawing and painting flags. Mostly it was for like Independence Days and stuff. Excuse me 1 second, I'm going to turn on my fan because it's really hot in here. I'm also out of water. I'll be right back. Okay, folks, we're back. I have hydrated. That's why your pride flag looks so amazing. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was why, because I've painted a lot of flags. I could do a tutorial on how to paint and draw flags if you want, but I think it's not that interesting. It's like the most boring thing ever. Okay. Right. Let us do some refinement on these values and just make this a little more accurate here. The sad thing is I think my laptop is overheating and I don't know how much more of me it can take. This is being unresponsive. Oh no, it's not that. It's just that I had my opacity set to almost nothing. That's why I didn't see it. Okay. It's not the computer's fault. It was my fault. This is really cute. Maybe we'll put a little bit more stuffs hanging down here. I really do enjoy working in black and white first. It just really helps me get the structure of the painting figured out without having to mess too much with color. I'm on the wrong layer again. That's okay. I think we'll just merge these. Merge the layers. Okay, I'm trying to decide, do I want this particular piece of work, if I were to go final, at this stage I'd have to decide, do I want line art to be in it, or like a sketch layer, or do I want it to just be color, just like a painting. My thinking is, since I'm not too experienced with the drawing dragons, I should probably do line art. It'll probably go faster if I take that approach. I can still do like a non-line art for the rest, for like the foreground and the background, but maybe for the middle ground we'll do line art. So let's take another pass and try to put in some final looking line art after I fix this thing right here because it's driving me crazy. Oh yeah, see, if you look at it like this, hey, that's quite nice. It works pretty well. You can tell what it is. You don't even need the lines. You know it's dragons. Valentine, you're my sweet Valentine. Oh! Hold on, I need to fix this. I think this rock structure is a little bit more here. This overhang here. You're my sweet dragon Valentine. If Chipper was here, she would be laughing a lot right now. She loves it when I do these little singing things. Little ditties. Alright, let's go back to what I said I'd do. Let's do more refined line art. Because I think we're going to need it, because it'll just go a little faster if we do that. I would like to do it in pencil rather than trying to make it look like a cartoon line art. So I am going to do that. That's just what I personally would like to do. Open my dragon reference again here. Where is it? 64, oh my god. Whoa, that's a big eraser. Let's lighten this line art a little bit easier to make it easier to see my final line art. Drawing the jawline here, because that helps to also indicate that the head is tilted. So I'm noticing that the wing is a little close to the head, and there's a lot of detail indicated in the head there. So I think it would probably be good for me to move the wing, the upper wing here, just a little bit. I'll do that. I gotta fix our tonal structure just a little bit here. There, just to give the head a little bit of room to breathe, because I think it was just a little too tight there. How'd this get so big? Oh, you know what would make this extra cute? If there were like little flowers. Growing here. Just little ones. A little bit of ferns or something here. Just to kind of indicate, oh, this is where the love happens. This is the love zone. So as you recall, there is the prompt for today is Valentine, so that's why this is a super sappy image of two dragons in love. Can you feel the love tonight? Oh yeah, Dragon Lady knows where it's at. Eventually, this stream is just gonna turn into a karaoke stream. Where it's just me singing stupid stuff. That's what we're doing here. We're singing and we're drawing. And we're learning. Because learning is fun. Not quite sure how to draw this part here. Maybe it would have been faster if we just skipped the line art, because I'm thinking like a lot of this is in silhouette anyway. But silhouette. If you don't know what that is, tune in to next week's live stream. Again, this wing is a little too close to the head. I think I'll bend this a little more upward. All right, we are past time on this. Just gonna really quickly finish this. Gonna be quick because I got stuff to do, guys. And I love hanging out with you, but real quick, a quick wrap up too. So if you're new here, I just want to quickly say we do run challenges every 2 weeks. In this case, we're running a challenge for the whole month of August, which is Smogust. We're just participating in that. But if you're interested in joining our art community and getting experience points for participating in art challenges, check out PaperDemon.com. That's the community I run. And join our mailing list. And you'll find out when I stream. I send out an email every month or every 2 weeks with my live streaming schedule so that you can find out when I am live, because I don't always have, I'm not always live on Wednesdays. Sometimes I'll do more than one live stream a week. It depends on what the lesson plan is. So if you're interested in more art lessons, definitely join that mailing list, and there's a link somewhere on the description of my Twitch profile. But you can also get on there by just going to PaperDemon.com and then joining the mailing list in the lower left. Thank you all for joining the stream, and next week's lesson is going to be Composition Part 3, and we're going to talk about sizing and silhouettes. Interestingly, we ended up with some silhouetting in this particular composition, so that works out. But we're going to get into more detail talking about silhouette and how that's useful for your compositions. And let's see, that's going to be at 10 a.m. Pacific next Wednesday. And thank you all for joining. I will see you next Wednesday. And if you want to see the other composition lessons, just check my what they call it. Do they call it? I don't know what they call it, but you can click on videos at the top on Twitch and you can see my other videos. Also, I have a new video on teaching some sketching fundamentals that went live on YouTube today. So if you go to youtube.com/PaperDemon, you'll see that new video there. All right, thanks all for joining. I will see you at the next live stream. Let's raid. Let's see if there's someone cool we can say hi to. Let's see. Let's see. Grigori Peppo is live. He is a fantastic portrait artist. I always like to raid him because he's a really cool guy. Let's check him out. All right, everyone, get ready to raid. That's the end of this live stream recording. Would you like to join me live during one of these live streams? Join my mailing list so you can hear about my live streaming schedule. A link is in the description below. Thanks so much for watching and being a part of the PaperDemon community. Don't forget to click like and subscribe.